Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm coming to you on the 31st of March, 2020. The United States has now surpassed the official reported death rate of China, and we have over twice as many official confirmed cases. Considering I have no faith in China's numbers, it's uncertain what that really means. However, what we're going to talk about in this video is I'm going to talk about new findings and how they underscore the seriousness of this outbreak. And also, we'll talk a little bit about some other new findings and how they shall drive what you need to consider for social distance and why it may be more than you realized and why you may be more people spreading this illness while they're asymptomatically than was originally thought. All that said, we'll start with the numbers. So what we're going to do first is look at the Worldometer just real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. A couple of other little sites. If my little things here will let me update it. Well, there we go. And here we are. You can see that, yeah, the United States, North America is definitely a hot center now, and so is Europe. One of the reasons I brought this chart up, though, we can see the United States reported cases here. If you always go to these numbers, these tend to be a little more updated. Here from the Worldometer, you can see I've been down the list looking at some other numbers. 185,707 on the Worldometer. Oh, that's the latest case. Yeah, 187,321. It changes. And they got 184,000 here on the John Hopkins site. So they don't always match, and the Worldometer usually tends to be a little more updated than this site. That said, this does provide a very graphical understanding of this one. See, there are still a lot of cases in the southern hemisphere starting to bloom out where it has been summer. Also, the number of cases in equatorial countries are interesting. Indonesia has got 1,528. Singapore has just had really good control of this from the get-go through contact tracing and testing, has kept this under control. Under 1,000 cases, 926 confirmed. Malaysia is pushing 3,000 though. Considering Malaysia is pushing 3,000, how is it a country such as India, with challenges to hygiene, sanitation, and over 1 billion people packed in small crowded areas, is under 1,400? That's really interesting. I don't know, maybe it's because they have a lot of this turmeric in their diet. Do you think that's what it is? I don't know. I do grow this. I grow it fresh and organic, and I will be selling some very soon. All that said, interesting numbers here. I'm going to go straight to my spreadsheet because, quite honestly, I've got the numbers from the Worldometer mostly pasted into my spreadsheet. So I'm going to go to right here. This is the rest of our numbers. Look, I'm going to keep this video a little shorter today than I typically hit this topic. I've added a few countries on here. You can see over here to my left where we're talking, if I go all the way left, that's where I looked at geometric progressions. But I've added a few countries on here, but I've even added the city of New York, which is the current epicenter, and listed it with countries because its case rate is comparable to that of other nations right now. So I thought that would be very instructive to put New York City on there. I've added Spain, United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, just simply because most of my viewers speak English, and I thought I should expand what I'm showing here. Of course, we start with the world. And the world population, reported cases in the world today are 857,772, according to the Worldometer. Last when I updated this just a little bit ago and pasted these numbers in here. Reported deaths are over 42,000, which leaves the case fatality rate, if you take a ratio of these two numbers, dividing this by that, you get, or actually this into that, you get 4.9. So if you go on down, the United States, more important, we're looking a little better at 2.04. New York City is also 2.04, but then again, most of the cases in the United States are driven by New York City. So You see the populations here of New York City, United States, the number of cases, the number of deaths. There you go. I've got all that in here. China, excuse me. You realize that Spain now has more people than China. Germany is fast catching up too. Maybe I should add Germany to this list. I expect France will pass China. So what's really going on with China? That merits a whole lot of other discussion here. Like I said in my earlier analysis, that given Italy's infection rate, China's deaths should, you'd expect to see them somewhere approaching 300,000, not 300,000, not 3,000. So you expect them to be 100 times more than what they're reporting. Given that there's reportedly over 500 urns being sent to people in Wuhan on a daily basis, and that the crematoriums are running full time in Wuhan, one must really wonder about China and their reported numbers. Now, China is using this to show their superiority over Western style nations, supposedly. Yeah, right. If they'd have clamped down and not tried to cover this thing up in the first place, the rest of the world wouldn't be suffering from what we're suffering today. That's why some people choose to call this the CCP flu, or the CCP virus, whatever you want to call it, the CCP flu. And you know what? I kind of go with that, because I'm no fan of the Chinese Communist Party. Any command society does not curry favor with me at all. Now, that said, let's look here on down the list. Spain. I've added Spain. Spain is not looking good. Case fatality rate of 8.82%. United Kingdom is not looking good either, 7.11%. And Canada and Australia are looking pretty good, but these are just started there. These cases haven't had a chance to bloom. And that's something else you might consider. The United States, we've got a lot of brand new cases here. The countries where the cases have been around the longest, with the exception of China, are showing high case fatality rates. And by the way, even China is showing 4.05. So given the way China tries to bury things and make them look good, this may be our best case. Hope is to keep it within 4.05. If Italy and Spain and the United Kingdom are any indicator, that may not be true. But of course, these numbers may be prejudiced by untested cases. Now, we've heard it said that it was projected that the percentage of mild cases and asymptomatic cases would be 80%. There is one professor in the United Kingdom by the name of Neil Ferguson. He's been running around telling them, oh, this is nothing. There's probably millions of people in here affected. It's been around for some time. The case fatality rate's probably less than the common flu, blah, 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 blah. If you trust him, you're going to be putting yourself in danger and other people in danger, because the data does not bear out what that individual says. He may be an epidemiologist, but I think he's dead wrong. And for one, he doesn't seem to understand the power of progression of numbers. Those cases will not still be blooming and increasing in those countries the way it is if what he said was true, because the Dublin period appears to be every 3 days in these countries until they clamp down real tight lockdown. Maybe we should go back to the worldometer and look at Italy in some of those cases, because they're still having a lot of brand new cases, even though they've been in tight lockdown for over 3 weeks. So Italy is really suffering them, and you expect them to see some turnaround. In China, they are releasing the people in Wuhan now, and they are after a 2 solid month lockdown. And you can see from what I had painted out here, if you were looking for having a 75% case fatality rate and 75% to herd immunity penetration rate in a population in the United States, you're looking at a period doubling. It's about 15. Well, let's see, from where we're at now, we have, let's see, in the U.S., we have reported 187,000 cases. Okay, so we're down past this number to this number. So the number of doublings would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to get to about that point, 10 or 11, 3 days each. That's about a month, So I can see where the presidential administration is expecting that things would start to tamp down at about a month. And maybe they're thinking that they can start releasing people in a month. It's probably going to, it's a bell curve. So really and truly, it's probably going to be just like Wuhan, 2 month period of tight lockdown. If it's not tight, it's not going to work. You may have to extend that maybe much longer. So it's better to do the job right the first time. And those that are around irresponsibly pushing this idea, oh, well, you know, there's already a million cases out there. What are you worried about? They're socially irresponsible to do that. Now, you may not like what I'm saying, and I'm probably going to get a lot of dislikes for that, but hear me out. It's better to err on the safe side than not. The safe side is taking the precautions. If you advise otherwise, and a lot of people die as a result of your inaction, you may pay dearly with a whole lot of extra people dying than what would otherwise have happened. If you're one of those people waving a flag, running around, charging all over the place, telling everybody that this is safe, then you particularly may be partially responsible for that. So watch what you say in terms of the way you advise people. I advise people to err on the side of caution and safety for that reason. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope dearly that they are right. But the data just does not seem to support that. And I'm going to tell you what, the actual data from testing, because as it turns out, the New Scientist magazine has put out a couple of results from a couple of studies. One of them done by Jeffrey Shaman of Columbia University of New York, where he went to 375 Chinese cities before the shutdown of Wuhan. So he started the 10th of January. And what they found was that 86% of the cases where they tested were asymptomatic or undocumented, where they actually found this COVID-19 disease. They were very mild or asymptomatic. In a similar study in Italy, also published in the New Scientist, they found the case number was 60%. If Neil Ferguson was right, those numbers would be far different. So there's two separate studies that shoot Neil Ferguson down and make him should be on the ground, because Neil Ferguson would have you believe maybe 1 in 1,000 cases are symptomatic, maybe 1 in 1,000,000. Neil Ferguson is full of it. Neil Ferguson, Brits, yeah, I would not want to be Neil Ferguson when as this thing's playing, because it's already playing out worse than Neil Ferguson said. Neil Ferguson said a week ago that it'd be burning out in Great Britain in a couple of weeks. It may, it's going to be a week longer at least. There's going to be more fatalities than he suggested, I would suggest. But, these people also forget several things. One, this illness takes a long time to recover from. We're talking weeks and weeks, maybe months. I mean, the recovery rate is very slow. Let's look on the worldometer at all the cases. We'll go back to the worldometer a little bit. We'll look at the cases recovery and some of these other dimensions. But if you just look at penetration of populations by this disease and the case fatality rates, these kind of things, so you can see what we're worried about case fatality rates. But let's look at penetrations of the populations. All right. By the way, two independent studies, both shoot down Neil Ferguson. Neil Ferguson is just shooting from the hip, and based on that, I would say that taking his advice of laxity, that's what got Italy in trouble. That's what got Spain in trouble. That's why New Orleans is suffering right now. These places are suffering because they did not take this seriously, because they were cavalier about it. And today, they're paying the price for that cavalierity, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I like to invent words sometimes. I'm a wordsmith, can you tell? So if you look at these world numbers, again, these are pretty much the same as what I had before. I was showing what would happen at various penetration rates of the population, and this was based on an earlier infection rate in Italy, which that was already been blown past. So this first row is really, I should just delete it. It's not really applicable. We may not hit 25%, but hey, I could say, well, at best case scenarios in the world, if you only have a 1% case fatality rate, nowhere is showing that based on this data, and if you have okay, I'll take that back. If you go down here to Australia, they're doing better than that so far, but it's just starting there. You got to realize what happens. First, it spreads. It takes a while to progress to the point where the symptoms are showing. It takes a while to it becomes serious, and then till you find the fatalities, and then to people recovering. So you got several curves that one lagging the other, with about a 3-day doubling rate. So, with the kind of doubling rates we're seeing, that also shoots down Neil Ferguson. I mean, you can shoot him down 3 different ways easily shoot down the apologists, the coronavirus apologists, who are going around, oh, there's nothing to worry about. You should be concerned. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're right, but the data just certainly does not seem to add up to that. And taking a risk on this is kind of like playing Russian roulette. Do you really want to do that? Do you want to sacrifice the people for a few bucks in terms of the economy, juicing the economy up? And then if you juice it up artificially too soon and you have a lot of people getting sick, it's going to crash harder in the long run. So just take the medicine. An ounce of prevention is worth a gallon of cure, according to Louis Pasteur. So take that to the bank. It's better to err on the side of caution. All right, so what are we looking at in terms of fatalities? At 1%, that number, which has already been blown past, I was looking at, 95,000 worldwide, according to that. Let's see, what are we at worldwide now? We're already halfway there. So, and this stuff is just getting started. So we know that's not right. We know that's been blown past, like I said. You might see, if we get a 25% population penetration, shy of 20 million in the world. That is far worse than the flu. And I'll show you something else that's far worse than the flu. It is the seriously ill cases. Now, some people suggest the flu's got very deep penetration in population somewhere, in this area. But it's also, we've got a huge herd immunity to the flu over time because it's been coming around and coming around and coming around without flu shots. There's good herd immunity in the population. Coronavirus is called the novel coronavirus. This COVID-19, the one that causes COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus, and it does not have herd immunity. It's novel. We have no immunity to it. And so the first time through, it's going to get deeper penetration. It's, like I said, thought often that 75% is the herd immunity level. Some people say we won't get immune to this one. And it may be worse because it has multiple pathways to get into your cells above and beyond the ACE2 inhibitor, as has been pointed out by Dr. Paul Cottrell. And there are those that postulated that the penetration would be 80%. That's why I put the 80% on here. And if you're looking at 80% worldwide, at what seems to be a typical number, 4%, you're looking at, somewhere close to 250 million people dead. There's the numbers right there. 250 million. That is extremely significant. Over 500 million if it's 10%, which is, maybe I should revise that up because Italy is running almost, they're running 12.5% right now. So let's hope it don't get toward Italy. Yeah, Italy's got worse, by the way, and Italy's been in lockdown for some time. Of course, that's because people are progressing to that station where they're beginning to die off. And we'll have the real case fatality rates after this thing's blown through, when you can actually really make the division that I made over here, because we have to factor in lag times and just a lot of analysis that I'm not going to put forth today, and nobody else is really doing that either, because we're basically in the fog of war with this thing. So the U.S., if you looked at this, you'd say, oh, we're only going to get 4,049 deaths. Well, excuse me, we're already practically there. Here's our death rate in the United States, 3,789. China claims they've only had 3,305, if you believe that. I don't, in any event. So if we get to 25%, 823,000. If you have a case fatality rate of 1, I said if, and if 25% of the population gets infected, then this is what you would expect to die out of that 25%. Oh, by the way, that's your 25% number. Divide by 10, bam, there you are. So, no, that's, excuse me, divided by 100, because that's 1%. Now, here's your 10% over here, like Italy. That would get you to 8 million. So if you got to in the United States, case fatality ratio of 4% at a penetration of 75%, or if you're looking at 80%, you're looking in the neighborhood of 10 million people. If we're like Italy, you could be looking at 26 million people. considering that we have a lot of older people, a lot of people with all kind of morbidities in the United States, be it diabetes, obesity, couch potatoes who don't work out that much, people who sit on their phones all day doing this, hey, you guys have got a problem. New York City is like a country on this list. So I listed them separately. This is the first time they appear on this list. New York City is not doing well, my friends. Over 1,550 deaths. So, we could be looking in New York City. So let's look at 25% penetration. At 1%, you're looking at somewhere over 48,000 dead in New York City, if that's the case. That's a big number. Let's hope not. Or over 500,000 at 4%. China. What kind of numbers would you really expect us to be seeing out of China? 25% penetration, 3.5 million? Well, they're declaring victory already. But then China did lock it down real tight. But I don't believe the numbers are putting at us. So maybe these numbers are, hey, these numbers are overblown. Well, I hope they are. That's all I got to say. I hope they are. So this is total infections again. Again, this is at your 1% case fatality rate at 25%. Spain could be looking at over 100,000 dead, or somewhere getting up close to 1.5 million at 4%. United Kingdom could be looking at 166,000 dead, or maybe close to 2 million. Canada, 95,000 dead, or well over 1 million. Even up to 1.5 million, or worse at 10% if it goes like Italy. But people in Canada aren't packed in as tight as people in Italy, so maybe it would not get close to that. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Australia. This hasn't really taken off yet in Australia, but they're about to hit the fall. We'll see if this illness is seasonal or not soon enough. If it behaves the way that some project, and if it gets to 25, well, look, this thing hasn't got anywhere near 25% penetration anywhere as of yet. So let me preface that. I mean, it's probably running ahead of this in several countries already. In fact, we know it's ahead of this in Italy now, because this was based on Italy's reported cases divided by their population about a week ago when I set this sheet up. So their numbers already blown past that. The United States as a whole is already almost past this. New York City is past that number. So forget that number. Oh, yeah, but that is a scary number, because when you look at total infections and you look at fatalities, yeah, let's go back to New York City, for example. But this is still a new disease in New York City, and case fatality rates running about 2 right now, it looks like. So New York City already has 1,500 dead. So we know 240 is not going to work for New York City, because they've already passed that number. Oh, New York City's passed this number too, but again, that's at that lower percentage, right? So, okay. New York City is actually past that number, almost to this number, if that ratio was the ratio we're looking at for penetration. Obviously, it's penetrated deeper than that in New York City already. So when I say New York City could see 48,000, yeah, it's definitely a possibility, or more. Back down to, sorry, Australia, I didn't mean to cut you short, but we could have big numbers in Australia too. North of 64,000 could happen, or even shy of 1 million. Here, if you go from here to here, or if you get over here, if it runs, I don't think Australia would get, because of the big distance. I'm hoping they never don't look like Italy. Bear in mind, this entire column is 10%. Excuse me, I keep hitting wrong. This entire column is 10%. I put it out here as I thought it was kind of sort of ludicrous, but it fit Italy's case fatality ratio. It's shown up at the time, but look at Italy now. Italy was 10% when I did this. Italy's looking worse. So wow. Okay, Greg, talk to me. What does this mean about social distancing? What do we need to know about this? Why is it looking so bad? Well, The World Health Organization has been telling us things. World Health Organization has been saying, oh, this is not an airborne disease. Really? Really? Well, guess what? Studies have now proven the World Health Organization wrong. Does that surprise you that the World Health Organization, the organization that YT had been referencing previously below for everybody to look at, because they didn't want us to listen to a lot of those channels here. So the World Health Organization said, oh, it's not airborne, and they had very short social distance rules. They said the droplets would be so heavy they'd fall out in just a couple feet, like almost immediately. Well, that's been proven wrong already by MIT. Yes, an MIT analysis showed that the droplets, the virus can be in smaller droplets, and we all know, and forget, excuse me, sneezes. Sneezes are 100 miles an hour. We've known that for a long time. I mean, these guys ignore stuff we've all known. Oh, why worry about that? And sneezes carry heavily droplets. There are videos of people talking, just normal talking, and you can see in the videos where you do like UV, where you can see the heat. You can see these droplets just go, farther than your arm can reach around everyone, just a cloud of droplets from when they're talking. That's scary. That's scary. Much farther than your arm reach, and they'll just start hanging in the air and floating around. So what did MIT find specifically about the SARS-CoV-2 virus and its droplet propensity to spread? Here's what they found. They found it can travel 10 to 30 meters from coughs and sneezes, which is, like 33 to 100 feet. Oh, no, wait, we can go, excuse me. It can go 10 to 30 meters per second, or 33 to 100 feet per second, which is what we've always known for a cough or a sneeze. It can create a cloud 7.8 meters in diameter initially, which is about 23 to 27 feet, basically, roughly across a cloud, big cloud of just hanging droplets. But these droplets remain suspended for a while, and they move around. They can hang in the air longer than he thought, and they be picked up by the flow of air and move. So the researchers found the droplets can stay airborne for hours, moving with the airflow into the ventilation systems. So what does this mean? I've always worried about near somebody coughing and sneezing. Forget that. That cloud could be hanging there. That person could have left 2 or 3 hours ago. And that cloud of droplets is just hours, means more than one. It's plural. I said multiple hours. So that could be for a while. And getting into the ventilation system, so it can get into the circulatory system, the fans, the blowers, and move around God knows where. And it has been found in ventilation shafts. So there you go. It has been found in hospitals and some other places. They've actually found this in the ventilation shafts, which underscores the MIT findings. Now, MIT is a highly distinguished university, so I would trust what they tell us very much. So if you think about a cloud of 23 to 27 foot, is 6 foot adequate social distance? You be the judge. I'm going to tell you what, the safe thing to do is to wear a mask. You've got to assume you're affected, even if you're not infected, so that you can provide safety to other people. So the main function of the mask may be to keep you from spreading it. It keeps you from touching your face. And I've started wearing masks when I go out in public. I have. Right, you got a beard, it won't seal tight. You know what? I do trust that most of the air I'm breathing is coming through the mask and not that bad ceiling around here. And the droplets do have some weight, so for them to come in and up, they could, but it's not as likely. My beard's a fair filter, actually, too, especially if I put a little thieves oil in it. I may shave. As the case count gets higher, you may see me shave. It's changing who I am, so I'm very resistant to that. But I might. So, but definitely, even if I'm breathing out droplets into a mask, even around the beard, still, if they fall, then they're really not going very far. They're down my collar, probably. They're not going out into the room. So, if everybody wore a mask when they did go out, if we limited when people went out, if we clamped down like they did in Wuhan, in 2 months' time, this could be controllable. Now, what they're doing in China, I will give them credit for this, is as they're opening things back up, they're going to be testing people aggressively, and they're going to do contact tracing. If they do the testing and contact tracing adequately, they might keep it from flaring back up. That's their plan. If it flares back up, game over, back to shut down, and they're going to be in serious trouble. So you don't want to open things back up too fast. You know, I did talk about that little game of, you know, closing things down and open them back up in between the sickness and the economy. You know, they're trying to play that balance. Maybe they found it. Maybe they've got it because they did shut it down real tight. Can we shut it down that tight in America? How are we going to manage this? Can Western societies do that? But we'll have to do something pretty smart and pretty good. Does it have to be that tight? It better be tight, because apparently this thing spreads a lot worse than a lot of people take into account. And the problem is that those few socially irresponsible people who are sociopaths and don't care about anybody else, they have no empathy and just only care about themselves, and those who just aren't buying into this. Even worse, those that try to convince other people not to buy into this. They are taking a risk of putting other people in danger or invoking other people to get into danger. That's not safe. Let's err on the side of safety and get over this and rise on the other side and try to live a better life. Now, my concern is that this thing may come back again and again in future episodes. That because it has apparently multiple type spike proteins, it can gain access to our cells through other means and methods other than the ACE2 receptor. Dr. Paul Cottrell did lay that out to us. It might, I don't know, he said it could lay in our tissues dormant for some time. I hope that's not true. I know a retrovirus can. This is not a retrovirus, but I'm not going to say it wouldn't. That's a pathway I was unaware of. So the thing is that we've got to be careful. I also submit that we are lucky that this is not one of the illnesses that has a case fatality rate of 50 to 60%, such as bird flu, Ebola, which there is an airborne variant of, and bird flu, which a couple of laboratories in this country saw the bright idea to make human transmissible versions in those laboratories. If those get accidentally released, we're in trouble. Or bird flu should evolve to have the capability for potentially a lot of trouble. So it's good now that we're learning how to operate this way in cells. And that's something I'm going to talk about in the future. And that's why I think we really need our tribes and communities so that we can have cells of safety. That we need. But learning how to live and operate in quarantine environment is something that's going to be very important. And we're going to be faced with this at least now for 2 months, apparently. At least a month, maybe 2. It's here. Here it is. It's with us now. Whether you want to buy any of this or not, whether you believe it's all fake or not, it's been imposed upon you. You're going to have some measure of quarantine. It's going to change how you operate and live, whether you like it or not, for the next at least 4 weeks, probably 8. So that's why I cover, and I'm starting a new series. I'll do some more videos in it on quarantine living. That's why you should subscribe to my channel, because I cover a lot of things about how to survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. I can't get my third finger up on this hand. I can't this one, but no, this one's a little different. I'm right-handed, go figure. So if you trust what I'm saying, subscribe to my channel. If you don't trust what I'm saying, you know, and you haven't subscribed, go on. I do cover many other topics. I do cover worm farming. I do cover how to grow your own food. You really need to know this for the reasons that we're covering here and many others. There are many threats to our civilization. Our civilization is very fragile. I've done videos talking about that. I've also done videos talking about the proliferation of technology and where that can lead us, and about the hive, human hive, soon to arrive. You need to be aware of these things. So please consider those things and the way you live your life. And like I said, if you trust what I'm saying, subscribe to my channel, bang the update notification bell, and click all to get my updates. And check my links below, because you are going to need to have long-term food storage. PrepWithGreg.com. Other prepping items are also available. PrepWithGreg.com. You need good heirloom seed source. Check True Leaf Market links below. And also for your gardening needs, especially to create really great fertilizer from your kitchen and yard waste without having to go to town and buy fertilizer, which you may not be able to do now. www.greengregs.com. I sell worms. And I hope you stay safe. Do abide by all the rules of social distancing, of hygiene, hand washing, wash your hands vigorously, and sing happy birthday twice, and all those things. There is a new set of guidelines that the administration has put out talking about social distancing. If you're sick, and there's a lot of just common sense stuff. If you're sick, don't go to school or work. If your kids are sick, don't send them to school. If you're an older person, don't, and especially if you have any morbidities, any health issues, heart, lungs, don't go out. Stay home until all this blows over. That's what they tell you. Work from home if you can. If you are working from home and once you come back early and you got some of these other challenges, talk to them. Say, hey, can I continue working from home? And we've talked about other means to make a living in my quarantine living. Guess what? the courier service that I bought at is booming. The first thing I suggested was courier service. And now a lot of your strip clubs have turned their girls into couriers because nobody's going to strip club. I noticed that in a recent article on Fox News. So somebody from the strip club joints watched my video. So, whatever. There's plenty of opportunities for couriers. If you're growing your own food and you can deliver it to people, if you're a market gardener, there's an opportunity, and that you can establish some relationships there that will last, because the people are going to discover what they're getting from you is far better than what they're getting from the store. You'll have customers. So now is an opportune time to start a community-supported agriculture, sell worms, and other things like that. So my friends, I want to thank you for watching. Take care, be safe, and just stay out of the fray.